Steven here for Off the Shelf Movie Night to talk to you about physical media, about Blu-rays, 4Ks, and DVDs, the way we like to buy and own our movies and TV shows, put them up in a beautiful collection, and watch them when and how we want without any streaming restrictions or paying in perpetuity to rent something. If you are a physical media collector or you just like movies, this is a good spot for you, I think. Hit that subscribe button, join the conversation, hit the notification bell so you're up to date on when I post, and if you like something, hitting that like button and a share really helps get the word out about the channel and the episodes and that kind of thing. Hitting the notification bell is really important right now. I'm about to be taking a trip, a little trip to, bumping the mic, trip to Mexico. I will be in Cozumel, so my posting schedule is going to be a little weird. If you want to see some of that trip, you can follow me over on TikTok. I highly recommend that. It's OTS Movies there also. And I've started my pushing 150. That's right, I'm seeing 150 movies in theater this year. Pushing 150, I've already done 2 films for that. If you want to stay up to date on those reviews, hit me up over on Letterboxd at also OTS Movies. Branding is pretty consistent now, so that's a long intro, but I got a lot to get out. I always have a lot to do. I got a little water here. All right, today, talking about Highlander 4K. This is a bonus features breakdown. So, to get past the obvious, the 4K is quite stunning. This is a Lionsgate release. It's a very, very solid 4K presentation. Spectator highlights rock in this. There's some digital special effects that do show their age, but they show it properly. Film grain is nice and consistent throughout. It looks really good. A lot of this movie is shot in darkness with minimal light or very stylized lighting, and everything comes through very nice. Detail stays strong throughout. Color palette is pretty solid also. So audio is banging, you guys. The score in this movie is so important. The score and the general musical soundtrack is very important, and it pops. So those on that situation, it's a no-brainer. This is a very solid release. There is a 4K Steelbook if you can find it still. I'm not sure. I think that was a Best Buy exclusive. This was on sale for a while for $12.50. It still might be that at Best Buy. I think on Amazon this is $17 right now, which for a brand new 4K is still a pretty solid price. But what I'm doing here is another entry in my series that I call Bonus Features Breakdown, because I feel like a lot of creators, I'm pulling up my list here as we talk, a lot of creators don't give enough detail on the bonus feature experience. I think that bonus features are a very important part of physical media releases, and big studios don't do them enough. So when we do get something good or bad, I want to call that out to you so we can talk about it. So this movie is quite surprising, though. I didn't really expect much here, but we get some stuff. Let me just crack it open, though, and I'll show you what the packaging looks like, just in case you haven't picked it up. Packaging here is pretty basic. The Steelbook has more to offer packaging-wise, but, so we do get disc art on the 4K and the Blu-ray, and surprisingly, there are art cards here. This is something that you see more from boutique distributors, but we did get them here. They took the time to pull them for us, and what's cool is these look like promotional shots and artist renderings more than just what happens a lot of time with boutique releases where they just take image caps and put them on these cards. I normally don't like these cards because, like I said, they're usually just still images that they've captured from the movie and put on cards. But these are cool. These do look like old marketing material. So that's kind of cool. Or even maybe some of these are more modern pieces of art. Either way, they're not just your typical screen caps. So I really appreciate that. It's kind of cool to have that stuff to look at when you're watching the movie, especially if you've seen it multiple times like I have. So let's get into the bonus features. The list is not excessively long, but it, spoiler alert for my feelings on it, but it is pretty impressive. We're going to start with the immortal attraction of Highlander, looking back at 4 decades of Highlander magic. Now, the title there is a little bit misleading because when I hear that, I think, oh, we're going to talk about, the Highlander franchise. But that is not what this documentary, that's 56 minutes long, by the way. To me, for a making of documentary that's feature length, this documentary stays true to and focused on the first film. So if you're looking for, since it says 4 decades, them to sort of discuss what came after, they don't really. The second film does get referenced, and the fact that there are other things, it does get referenced in that this movie is so popular and gained such a cult following that it did spawn other product. But they don't have any interviews with anybody from the TV show or those other films or whatever. But what is impressive is they interview pretty much everyone from that matters from the original film. I just want to pull up the cast list here. Because, obviously, the only one that we're missing, obviously, is Sean Connery. Because we don't have him to hear from anymore, sadly. But, I don't want to be, negative about it. But even if he was still here, I don't think he would have done it. But in the documentary, who we do get is Christopher Lambert, which is fantastic. We get Clancy Brown, who is always great to hear from. And I'm looking for the name of the other person that we do get time with, because there's primarily just 3 of the cast. And Roxanne Hart. I couldn't remember her name. So we get the 3 main cast talking a lot. This is not just sound bites. This is some in-depth conversation. I think Christopher Lambert's comments are kind of the most soundbitey, maybe. Clancy Brown's kind of are, but there's a reason that Clancy Brown's are, and we'll get to that in a minute. I really loved seeing Roxanne Hart. And more importantly, what I loved about this documentary is all the other people. There's a lot of crew in here. There's production design, and of course the director and the writer. The writer is really interesting because he wrote the script in college, and he talks about the evolution of it, his feelings on how the script evolved, and I'm not going to speak into it too much. I want you to actually enjoy it and not get it spoiled for you. But he's very interesting to hear. And there are tidbits of honesty in this movie, or in this documentary. It's not all just like fluff. Because this is what happens sometimes, is you get people that, filmmakers or crew or cast, doing these things, and it all just feels like fluff. They're all just sort of, 1, either afraid to talk the truth about a movie, or 2, it's been such a distance between the time they made the movie and now that they've got it in sort of this like rose-colored glasses thing, and they don't really share how it was. And I'm not trying to say that I always want negativity, because I don't, but I want honesty. I want to hear about the challenges. That's the thing. It doesn't have to be a bad experience. I just want to hear about the challenges of getting the movie made. And we don't always get that in these. And in this one, we don't get as much as I think we should. We don't talk enough about how Christopher Lambert is legally blind and the work that they had to do with choreography with him on that. They do talk about the speech challenges, though, because he didn't really speak English coming into this movie. And they talk about that challenge and how they dealt with it. And that was pretty interesting to hear. I guess I would, if I'm going to talk about the negatives and the positives are, we get a lot of people from this movie sharing stories about the movie and the making of the movie and all that stuff. And negatives is it's a little bit talking headish. There's not a lot of interesting imagery outside of talking head, clip from the movie, talking head, clip from the movie, talking head, clip from the movie. That said, though, there's a lot of specifics about the making of the film, not just, oh, this was a fun shoot. They talk about building sets and the challenges of building sets. One particular shot with many, many cameras, more cameras than I ever would have expected from a film produced by Canon Group, and the fear of that particular shot. So there's a lot of cool actual filmmaking talk in this hour-long documentary. So it probably is one of the better feature-length documentaries that I've seen on a major studio release. They took time to do something with this one, which is great. There's a story in there about how Queen became involved, and that's very interesting and fun. And I'm going to leave that to you to discover more, but they do talk about that. It feels short, and the reason the discussion of the music feels a little bit short, and Clancy Brown's segments feel short, are specifically for the reasons I'm going to give you right now. And that is, they get their own feature on here because more time was put into them. There can be only one Kurgan, and that is an individual interview with Clancy Brown, talking about Highlander, talking about his character, talking about how he felt about the character, what he sort of brought to it. They also talk about who was supposed to play the role and didn't. So that stuff is really interesting. I love Clancy Brown. He's just got such a specific timbre to his voice. I think of so many characters when I hear him speak. So, and you will too. If you don't know the name, when you watch the interview, you'll be like, "Oh, it's that guy. It's that guy." So I'm kind of glad that he was willing to and seemed enthusiastic to sit and discuss the film enough to warrant his own, more brief segment talking about the movie, his own sort of standalone feature. I do feel kind of surprised that Christopher Lambert didn't get one because, he is the Highlander, but who knows? Let's see. Also, A Kind of Magic is a featurette. Again, more brief than the hour-long one, but it's fine. This is A Kind of Magic is just about the music, the Queen music, because for those of you who don't know, Queen didn't just do a song, which is most common. You'll get a band that does a song for a movie, and that's still most common even today. But Queen did an entire album for this movie. There's like 5-6 songs or something in here, and there's a lot of discussion about that, how it impacted the score. It's a really good featurette. I highly recommend it, even if you're not normally someone who cares much about the making of aspects of the music for a film. I would recommend this one because this is not just a score. This is a rock and roll soundtrack, which is iconic. The music, you can not like Highlander and still dig on the music because this is Queen, and this is some good Queen music. This isn't just throwaway B-sides from them. This is very solid music. So again, highly recommended. All right, there's a featurette that is a little less interesting to me. It's called Capturing the Immortality. It's an interview with the still photographer, the on-set still photographer, David James. He does share some interesting stories from, the set, from the making of the film. It feels a little repetitive to me because he is also featured in the longer documentary. It doesn't feel as important as obviously Clancy Brown, but we do get to see some of his cool photography, and maybe that's where some of these art cards came from, is from him. And I'm not saying it's not good. It is good, but it's made better by the other features that are here because it's a great little addition to the other stuff. If this was on its own, I would be a little more disappointed. Now we get some audio commentaries on here too, which is fantastic. Remember, this is a big studio release, so it's nice to be able to get these things. Now I don't know if these are holdovers from a previous release. They might be, but even still, you have stuff that was put out on DVD with an audio commentary, and then the new versions come out, and they just don't bother to include them. Well, we get it here. So there's an audio commentary with author John Melville, and that's great. I prefer my commentaries to be someone who was directly on set with the film. I just prefer that. That's me. So then we get an audio commentary with Russell Mulcahy, who directed the film, which is great. It's a director's commentary, and then we get one with him and the producers. That's a great commentary also. Those are great. That's on the 4K. There's some other stuff on the Blu-ray. If you switch to the Blu-ray disc, I believe there's commentary with with Russell Mulcahy on the Blu-ray also. I think that's the same one. There's an interview with director Russell Mulcahy, interview with Christopher Lambert. Those are both over on the Blu-ray disc. They're not long, but interesting nonetheless. Making of Highlander. This is more of an archival thing. And then we get an archival interview with Christopher Lambert. Their trailer is also there, and there are deleted scenes. So across the two discs, there's a lot of really cool stuff. All right, in conclusion, I'm going to give this thing a solid 5 out of 5. I know there are some boutique releases that have done way more special features-wise than this one has done. But for a big studio release of a catalog film, this thing is pretty packed. It's worth the purchase, obviously, for the 4K, for the movie. But the feature-length documentary is enough. If that was all we had, it still would be great. But there's a lot of other little tidbits, extended interviews, deleted scenes. Of course, we get the trailers, thank goodness. So it's a pretty stacked disc, and I highly recommend. Now, again, if you watch just the 4K, you know, obviously for the movie, I do recommend when you're digging into bonus features to put in the Blu-ray and check out the archival stuff too. Then you get a complete picture of Highlander and kind of where it lives in pop culture history. Anyway, this is a great release. Again, highly recommended. If you can find it for $12.50 still, that's a steal. Even at $17, it's still a good deal for a very solid 4K. Till next we meet, pull something cool off the shelf, share it with your friends and family, and remind them why physical media is the best way to watch films and TV at home. I'll see you guys on the next one.